You know that moment when you realize you've been living a lie? When everything you thought was real just crumbles right in front of you. Well, that happened to me on a Tuesday afternoon in my own kitchen. And let me tell you, it changed everything. I'm Rebecca, and I thought I had it all figured out. I'd been married to Marcus for 8 years, living in this gorgeous Victorian house in Salem, Oregon that we'd bought together right after our wedding. Well, I thought we'd bought it together. Turns out, that was just the first of many lies I'd been fed. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up a bit because this story, it's wild. And you're going to want to stick around for what happens next. It all started when I overheard a conversation I was never supposed to hear. I was coming back from the grocery store, arms full of bags, when I heard voices from the living room. Marcus was there with his mother, Patricia, and his sister, Jennifer. They were talking in those hushed tones that immediately make your stomach drop. You know? I mean, we really didn't expect someone like her to last this long, Patricia was saying, and I froze right there in the hallway. Someone like her? Who were they talking about? Then Jennifer's voice chimed in, all smug and satisfied. 8 years though, Mom. That's longer than any of us thought she'd stick around. My blood ran cold. They were talking about me. I set the grocery bags down as quietly as I could, my hands shaking. Marcus's voice was next, and what he said made my world tilt sideways. Look, the plan worked perfectly. She's been paying half the mortgage this whole time, fixing up the house, making it beautiful. The property value has nearly doubled since we got married. When we're ready to move forward, she won't have any legal claim to anything. The plan? What plan? Patricia's laugh was like nails on a chalkboard. I have to admit, I was skeptical at first. A waitress from the wrong side of town? But you played it perfectly, sweetheart. She's been the perfect little housewife, hasn't she? I felt like I was going to throw up. 8 years of marriage, and they were talking about me like I was some kind of investment strategy. The best part, Jennifer added, is how grateful she always is. Remember last Christmas when she thanked us for letting her be part of the family? I almost felt bad for her. Almost. I stood there in my own hallway, listening to my husband and his family dissect my life like I was some kind of business transaction. Every family dinner, every holiday, every moment I'd spent trying to win their approval. It had all been an act. But here's the thing they didn't know about me. I wasn't just some naive waitress from the wrong side of Portland. I had secrets of my own, secrets that were about to turn their perfect little scheme upside down. See, what Marcus and his precious family didn't realize was that I'd been keeping something from them, too. Something big, something that was going to make their jaws drop and their carefully laid plans crumble to dust. I picked up those grocery bags and walked into that living room with a smile on my face, acting like I hadn't heard a thing. But inside, I was already planning my revenge. Hey, honey, I said sweetly to Marcus, giving him a kiss on the cheek like I always did. How was your day? The look that passed between him and his mother was priceless, pure panic. They had no idea if I'd heard them or not, but they were about to find out just how much this waitress from the wrong side of town was capable of. Hey, everyone. If you're loving this story so far, please hit that like button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love hearing from you all. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible true stories. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss what happens next because this is just the beginning, and Rebecca's about to drop a bombshell that will leave you speechless. For the next 3 days, I played the perfect wife. I made Marcus his favorite breakfast, packed his lunch with those little love notes he used to say he adored, and smiled at Patricia when she came over unannounced, which, let's be honest, was basically every other day. But inside, I was seething and planning. You see, there's something I never told Marcus or his family, something I've been keeping to myself for 8 long years. While they saw me as just some poor waitress who got lucky, the truth was so much more complicated. My grandmother, Nana Rose, had been the one person who truly loved me growing up. She raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 12. Nana wasn't rich by any means. She lived in a tiny apartment in southeast Portland, but she was smart, real smart. Before she passed away 2 years into my marriage with Marcus, she pulled me aside and said something I'll never forget. Rebecca, honey, never let anyone make you feel small, and always, always have a backup plan. Then she handed me a manila envelope and made me promise not to open it unless I absolutely had to. She said it was my insurance policy and that I'd know when the time was right. Well, after hearing that conversation in my living room, I'd say the time was definitely right. I waited until Marcus left for his job at the accounting firm, And Patricia went to her book club. Yeah, they had routines I could set my watch by. Then I went up to our bedroom, reached behind the old jewelry box in my closet, and pulled out that envelope. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Inside was a letter in Nana's handwriting, along with some official-looking documents that made my jaw drop. "My dearest Rebecca," the letter began. "If you're reading this, then someone has made you feel like you don't deserve the world. But baby girl, you own more of it than you know. Turns out, my sweet little Nana Rose had been buying property for decades. Small plots of land, rundown houses, empty lots that nobody wanted. She'd been flipping them, renovating them, and selling them at a profit long before those house-flipping shows made it trendy. And she'd left it all to me. I'm talking about 17 properties across Oregon and Washington. Rental houses, commercial buildings, even a small apartment complex in downtown Portland. The total value? Just over $3 million. $3 million. I sat there on my bedroom floor, staring at property deeds and bank statements, realizing that while Marcus and his family thought they were playing me, I'd been secretly sitting on a fortune this whole time. But here's the kicker, and this is where it gets really good. One of those properties was a gorgeous lakefront house in Lake Oswego. You know, the fancy part of town where Marcus always said he wanted to live someday. Yeah, I owned a house there. Had owned it for 6 years. The rental income from all these properties had been going into a separate account that I'd honestly forgotten about. I'd been so focused on trying to be the perfect wife that I'd never even checked the balance. $437,000, just sitting there, waiting for me. I called the property management company that had been handling everything, and when I told them who I was, the woman on the phone practically started crying with relief. "Ms. Rebecca, oh my gosh, we've been trying to reach you for months. The Lake Oswego property's lease is up next month, and we have 3 families wanting to bid on it. One of them is offering $15,000 a month. $15,000 a month for a house I owned outright." I sat there, thinking about Marcus coming home tonight, probably planning to string me along for another few years, while they figured out how to get me out of their house. Thinking about Patricia's condescending smiles and Jennifer's backhanded compliments. But you know what really got me? It was remembering all those times I'd apologized for not bringing enough to the table. All those family dinners where I'd felt like I had to prove I was worthy of being there. All those moments I'd been grateful for their generosity in letting me be part of their family. When Marcus got home that night, he found me in the kitchen, cooking his favorite meal, lasagna with garlic bread. He kissed my forehead and asked about my day, just like always. "Oh, you know," I said, stirring the sauce. "Just took care of some business. Nothing too exciting." He had no idea that his little investment strategy wife had just discovered she was worth more than his entire family combined, but he was about to find out. I decided to let them dig their own grave a little deeper before I dropped my bombshell. Call it professional curiosity. I wanted to see just how far they'd go with their little charade. The opportunity came the very next weekend. Marcus announced that his whole family was coming over for Sunday dinner. His parents, Jennifer and her husband Derek, and even his uncle Bob, who I'd always suspected never really liked me. "It's kind of a family meeting," Marcus said, not quite meeting my eyes. "We need to discuss some financial stuff." Oh, I bet they did. I spent all day Saturday preparing. Made Patricia's favorite pot roast, Derek's beloved apple pie, even bought that fancy wine that Jennifer always went on about. I was going to play the perfect hostess one last time. Sunday rolled around, and they all showed up looking way too serious for a family dinner. There was this weird energy in the room, like they were all in on some big secret, which of course they were. We made small talk through dinner. Patricia complimented the roast. Jennifer mentioned how cozy our house was, which was her polite way of saying small, and Marcus kept checking his phone like he was nervous about something. Finally, after dessert, Marcus cleared his throat. "Rebecca, honey, we need to talk about something important. Here it comes," I thought. I folded my hands in my lap and put on my most innocent expression. "Of course, babe. What's going on?" Marcus looked at his father, who nodded encouragingly. "Well, it's about the house. About our future." "Our future?" I repeated, like I had no idea where this was going. Patricia leaned forward, putting on her most motherly voice. "Sweetheart, we've been talking as a family and we think it might be time for you and Marcus to make some changes." "What kind of changes?" Jennifer jumped in, clearly unable to contain herself. "We think you guys should sell the house and downsize. Marcus has been carrying such a heavy financial burden all these years, and it's just not fair to him. Heavy financial burden? I'd been paying half the mortgage for 8 years. I don't understand, I said, playing dumb. Marcus, I thought we loved this house. We've put so much work into it. Marcus had the decency to look uncomfortable. We do love it, Becca. But Mom's right. It's a lot of house for just 2 people, and the market's really good right now. We could make a nice profit and find something more manageable. Plus, Derek added, you could use your share to maybe go back to school or something. You know, improve your prospects. My prospects. Right. Uncle Bob, who'd been quiet all evening, suddenly spoke up. The thing is, Rebecca, and I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but you've never really contributed to the family finances the way Marcus has. This could be your chance to start fresh. Never contributed? I'd been working 2 jobs for the first 5 years of our marriage, putting every spare penny into this house while Marcus spent his money on golf clubs and weekend trips with his buddies. But I kept my cool. That's a lot to think about, I said softly. Where would we move? Well, Patricia said, exchanging a look with Marcus. That's the other thing we wanted to discuss. Jennifer and Derek are looking for a bigger place now that they're trying for a baby, and this house would be perfect for them. And there it was, the real plan. You want to sell our house to your sister? I asked Marcus directly. He couldn't look at me. It would keep it in the family, and they'd give us a fair price. How fair? Well, below market value, obviously, since we wouldn't have to pay realtor fees or anything, but still fair. Below market value. To his sister, for a house that had doubled in value thanks to all my hard work. I sat there for a moment, looking around the table at all these people who'd been planning my downfall while I served them dinner. People I'd bent over backwards to please for 8 years. Can I ask you something? I said quietly. They all nodded, probably thinking they'd won. Do you really think I'm that stupid? The silence was deafening. Patricia tried to recover first. Rebecca, honey, what do you mean? I stood up slowly, walked to the kitchen, and came back with that manila envelope. I set it on the table right in the middle of all the dirty dishes. I said, my voice getting stronger. Do you really think I didn't know what you've been planning? Do you think I didn't hear you talking about me in my own living room last week? Marcus went pale. Rebecca, I can explain. Oh, I'm sure you can. You've been explaining things to me for 8 years, about how grateful I should be, about how lucky I am to be part of this family, about how I need to contribute more. I opened the envelope and pulled out the property deeds. Well, guess what? I've been contributing more than you could ever imagine. And that's when I dropped the bombshell that changed everything. The look on their faces when I spread those property deeds across the dinner table was absolutely priceless. You could have heard a pin drop in that dining room. What are those? Marcus stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. These, I said, picking up the deed to the Lake Oswego property, are the deeds to my 17 properties across Oregon and Washington. This one here, it's worth about $800,000. And this one, I held up another deed, brings in $12,000 a month in rental income. Patricia's face had gone completely white. That's not possible. Oh, it's very possible. See, while you all were busy thinking I was just some poor little waitress who got lucky, I've been sitting on a $3 million real estate portfolio, thanks to my grandmother, who was apparently a lot smarter than any of you ever gave her credit for. Jennifer's mouth was hanging open. $3 million? 3.2, actually. The market's been very good to me. I walked around the table, still holding the deeds. You want to know the really funny part? All these years I've been apologizing for not bringing enough to the table. All those times I thanked you for letting me be part of the family. All those moments I felt like I wasn't good enough. Marcus tried to speak, but I held up my hand. I'm not finished. You see, I've been getting rental income from these properties for 6 years. $437,000, just sitting in an account I forgot I had. While I was here, scrubbing your floors and cooking your meals and trying to prove I was worthy of your son. Derek looked like he might throw up. Rebecca, we had no idea. Of course you didn't, because you never bothered to actually get to know me. You just saw what you wanted to see, a convenient target for your little scheme. I turned to Marcus, my voice getting colder. 8 years, Marcus. 8 years of marriage, and you were planning to kick me out with nothing. Below market value to your sister? Really? Rebecca, please let me explain. Explain what? How you've been lying to me since day one? How you and your family have been planning to steal my home? How you've been using me as free labor while you figured out how to dispose of me? Patricia finally found her voice. Now wait just a minute. No, Patricia. You wait a minute. You want to know what I heard you say about me? We didn't expect someone like her to last this long. Someone like me. A waitress from the wrong side of town, right? The silence was deafening. Well, here's a news flash for all of you. This waitress from the wrong side of town owns more real estate than your entire family combined. And she's done being your doormat. I walked over to the mantel and pulled down a frame that held our wedding photo. Behind it was something I'd hidden years ago, the original deed to our house. Marcus, do you remember when we bought this house? Do you remember signing the paperwork? He nodded slowly, looking confused. Do you remember whose name is on the deed? His face went ashen. Both of ours. Wrong. I held up the deed. Just mine. Because I was the one who qualified for the loan. I was the one with the good credit. I was the one who had the down payment. The room was spinning around them. I could see it in their faces. The realization that everything they thought they knew was a lie. You see, I let you think you were the big provider. I let you think you were taking care of me. But the truth is, I've been taking care of you this whole time. Jennifer was shaking her head. But you work at the diner? I work at the diner because I like it. Because Martha has been like a mother to me. And because I enjoy the work. Not because I need the money. I looked around the table at all their stunned faces. The question now is, what am I going to do with this information? Marcus reached for me. Rebecca, honey, we can work this out. We can... Work what out, Marcus? The fact that you've been planning to divorce me and steal my house? The fact that your whole family has been treating me like garbage while living off my generosity? It doesn't have to be like this, Patricia said desperately. We're family. No, I said firmly. We're not family. Family doesn't scheme against each other. Family doesn't plot to steal from each other. Family doesn't spend 8 years making someone feel worthless. I gathered up all the deeds and put them back in the envelope. I want all of you out of my house. Now. Rebecca, please. Marcus started. Now. As they filed out, looking shell-shocked and defeated, Marcus turned back one more time. What happens now? He asked quietly. I looked at him, really looked at him, and realized I felt nothing but pity. Now you get to find out what it's like to start over with nothing, just like you were planning to make me do. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Once the initial shock wore off, Marcus tried every trick in the book to get back into my good graces. He sent flowers, left voicemails, even showed up at the diner where I worked, causing such a scene that Martha had to threaten to call the cops. But I was done. 8 years of lies, manipulation, and emotional abuse don't just disappear because someone gets caught. I hired the best divorce attorney in Portland. Turns out having money makes a lot of things easier. Her name was Victoria Chen, and she was absolutely ruthless. When I told her the whole story, she literally rubbed her hands together with glee. Oh, honey, she said, we're going to destroy them. The first thing we did was get a restraining order. Marcus had been getting increasingly desperate, showing up at my work, my house, even following me to the grocery store. The judge took one look at the evidence of his harassment and granted it immediately. Then came the fun part, the divorce proceedings. See, Marcus and his family had made one crucial mistake in their little scheme. They'd assumed I was financially dependent on him, which meant they thought I'd be desperate to settle quickly for whatever scraps they threw my way. They were wrong. Victoria filed for divorce citing fraud and emotional abuse. We demanded full custody of all marital assets, which, as it turned out, were mostly mine anyway. The house, the car, even the fancy furniture they'd insisted on buying. I'd paid for half of everything, and I had the receipts to prove it. But the real kicker was when we filed a civil suit against Marcus for what's called fraudulent inducement to marry. Basically, we accused him of marrying me under false pretenses with the intention of defrauding me. The look on his attorney's face when he realized what he was dealing with was absolutely priceless. This wasn't going to be some quick, easy divorce where the little wife got taken to the cleaners. This was going to be a war, and I was armed for battle. Marcus tried to claim that he deserved half of my inheritance, but Victoria shut that down real quick. Your client has no claim to assets that predate the marriage and were never commingled with marital funds, she told his lawyer. Nice try, though. Patricia actually had the nerve to call me, crying and begging me to think about the family. I am thinking about the family, I told her. I'm thinking about how you spent 8 years treating me like hired help while planning to steal my home. I'm thinking about how you raised a son who thinks it's okay to lie to his wife for nearly a decade. Rebecca, please, we made mistakes. Mistakes? Patricia, you didn't accidentally plan to defraud me. You didn't accidentally treat me like garbage. You didn't accidentally raise a son who thinks women are disposable." She hung up on me. Meanwhile, I was making some changes to my life. I quit one of my jobs at the diner, not because I didn't love it, but because I wanted more time to manage my real estate portfolio. Turns out, I had a real knack for it. I also started therapy. Dr. Sarah Williams helped me understand that what I'd experienced wasn't just betrayal. It was systematic emotional abuse designed to keep me small and compliant. "They isolated you from your own power," she explained. "They made you believe you were lucky to have them, when the truth was, they were lucky to have you." It was during one of these sessions that I made a decision that surprised even me. I was going to give them exactly what they wanted. Dr. Williams looked concerned. "Rebecca, we've talked about not making decisions based on anger. I'm not angry anymore," I said honestly. "I'm just done. I want them out of my life completely, and I know exactly how to do it." I called Victoria that afternoon. "I want to offer them a settlement," I said. "Rebecca, we're winning. We don't need to. Trust me on this, but I want to do it my way." The settlement conference was held in a fancy conference room downtown. Marcus showed up with his parents and his attorney, looking hopeful for the first time in months. They probably thought I was finally ready to cave. Victoria laid out my offer. I would give Marcus the house I'd bought, the house I'd paid for, the house I'd renovated with my own hands. I would also give him $50,000 in cash. In exchange, he would give up all claims to any of my other assets, agree to a no-contact order, and sign a document admitting to fraudulent inducement to marry. Marcus's lawyer looked confused. "This seems very generous." "It is," Victoria said with a smile. "My client is feeling charitable." What they didn't know, what I hadn't told anyone except Victoria, was that I'd already taken steps to ensure this gift would be exactly what they deserved. Marcus signed the papers so fast he nearly tore them. As we left the conference room, Patricia actually had the audacity to hug me. "Thank you, Rebecca. This is so generous of you." I hugged her back and whispered in her ear, "You're welcome. Enjoy the house." The look of confusion on her face was perfect. 3 months later, Marcus moved into his house with a new girlfriend, some young thing from his office who probably thought she'd hit the jackpot. Jennifer and Derek were also talking about moving in temporarily while they house hunted, just like they'd originally planned. I watched from my car as they had a little celebration party, toasting their good fortune. Marcus even called me to thank me again, his voice full of fake gratitude. "Rebecca, I just want you to know how much this means to me. You didn't have to be so generous." "Oh, Marcus," I said sweetly. "I wanted you to have exactly what you deserve." What Marcus didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd been very, very busy during those 3 months. Remember how I said I had a knack for real estate? Well, I'd been doing my homework on that little Victorian house I'd given him, the house that had doubled in value since we'd bought it 8 years ago, the house that was now worth about $600,000. Here's the thing about old houses in Oregon. They come with all sorts of fun surprises. Foundation issues, electrical problems, plumbing that dates back to the 1940s. And our house? Well, it had all of those problems and more. I'd known about them for years. The foundation had a crack that was slowly getting worse. The electrical system was overloaded and dangerous. The plumbing was held together with prayers and duct tape. And the roof? The roof was going to need complete replacement within the next 2 years. I'd been putting off these repairs because they were expensive. We were talking about at least $150,000 in necessary work. But I'd been living with the problems, managing them, knowing that someday I'd have to deal with them. Well, someday had arrived. The first sign of trouble came about a month after Marcus moved in. A pipe burst in the basement, flooding the lower level and revealing just how bad the foundation problem really was. Marcus called me, panicked. "Rebecca, there's water everywhere. The basement is flooded." "Oh no," I said, sounding appropriately concerned. "Did you call a plumber?" "Yeah, but he says it's not just the pipe. He says there are structural issues. He says the foundation is shifting." "That's terrible, Marcus. What did he quote you for repairs?" $40,000. Just for the foundation work. Wow, that's a lot of money. What I didn't tell him was that I'd already gotten 3 estimates on that foundation work. $40,000 was actually on the low end. 2 weeks later, the electrical system started acting up. Lights flickering, outlets not working, and then, the coup de grace, a small electrical fire that required the fire department. The fire inspector condemned the electrical system and ordered it to be completely rewired before anyone could safely live in the house. Cost? $35,000. Marcus was in full panic mode now. He'd borrowed money from his parents for the foundation work, but they were tapped out. His credit was maxed out from the divorce proceedings. And his new girlfriend? Well, she suddenly wasn't so interested in playing house anymore. Then came the cherry on top. I'd been waiting for this moment for 2 years. The roof had been patched and repatched so many times it looked like a quilt. And Oregon's winter rains, they're not forgiving. The call came during a particularly nasty storm in February. Rebecca. Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. The roof is leaking. Bad. How bad? The ceiling collapsed in the master bedroom. There's water damage throughout the whole second floor. I made appropriate sympathetic noises while doing a little happy dance in my new lakefront home in Lake Oswego. What did the contractor say? Complete roof replacement, plus all the water damage repair, plus mold remediation. His voice cracked. $90,000. Oh, Marcus, that's awful. What are you going to do? I don't know. I can't afford it. The insurance won't cover it because they say it's due to deferred maintenance. I'm already in debt up to my eyeballs from the foundation and electrical work. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. You know, Marcus, I might be able to help. Really? The hope in his voice was pathetic. I could buy the house back from you. I mean, it needs so much work. I couldn't pay full price, but I could give you something. How much? I pretended to think about it. Well, considering all the problems, maybe $200,000? I know it's not what you paid for it, but with all the repair costs, $200,000. For a house that had been worth $600,000 before all the problems came to light. A house that would be worth $800,000 once all the repairs were done. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Rebecca, I don't have a choice, do I? I'm sorry, Marcus. I really am. But I wasn't sorry. Not even a little bit. The paperwork for buying back my house was signed on a rainy Tuesday in March. Marcus looked like he'd aged 10 years in the 6 months since our divorce was finalized. His new girlfriend had moved out weeks ago, and he was living in his parents' basement while they all tried to figure out how to dig themselves out of the financial hole they'd created. I can't believe this is happening, he kept saying as he signed the papers. I can't believe you're willing to take on all these problems. Well, I said, trying to look sympathetic. I know the house. I know its quirks, and I have some experience with renovations. What I didn't tell him was that I'd already had contractors lined up for months. The foundation work would start next week, followed by the electrical and plumbing. The roof replacement was scheduled for April. Total cost? About $160,000. But here's the beautiful part. I'd also applied for historic renovation grants since the house was built in 1890. Between the federal grants, state tax credits, and local incentives, I was going to get back about $70,000 of that renovation cost. Plus, once all the work was done, the house would be worth close to $800,000. I'd bought it back for $200,000, put in $90,000 of my own money for repairs, and end up with a house worth 4 times what I'd paid for it. It was the perfect revenge. As Marcus handed me the keys to my own house, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Complete satisfaction. What are you going to do now? I asked him. He shrugged.